So welcome to another Smart Digital Workshop where we stay motivated and rise together by engaging in real conversations that enhance your personal and professional brand. My name is Dr. Theo Fowles, and I'm joined by my co-facilitator, Dr. Jaqui Thomas. So today we are talking about the students and the athlete. Put them together. We're talking about the student-athlete experience. We have some amazing guests that Dr. Thomas will introduce.
Yes. So today we have Tamica Smith-Jones, so I don't get it backwards, Tamica Smith-Jones, who is the Director of Intercollegiate Athletics at UC Riverside. And we have
Dr. Alan Green, who is not only a faculty member at USC, he is an appointed member to support student athletes at the University of Southern California. We'll talk about what that entails as well.
So we're going to jump in with the questions. I want to invite you both to please tell us your story, tell us your educational history, your professional experience. People are wondering how you got to be where you are now. And also if you're part of any professional organizations, committees, things of that nature, please share.
Well, thank you both for having me. I'm excited about this opportunity to share and engage, especially around student athletes. I have been in higher ed, collegiate athletics for all of my career. I was a former student athlete. I played basketball, high school, college, earned a full scholarship in college, was a transfer student. So I have a lot of experiences having coached the sport and now sitting in the athletic director's role. My upbringing, I wrote a book about it, just tells my journey. It's a memoir, A Ball and a Dream, and it's just talking about a girl growing up in the backyard, playing with the boys. Dad saw something in me that he thought he wanted to leverage. Got my own ball, got my own goal. So I couldn't get, counted out of games. They were playing on my court. So, so have it. I got a lot of skill sets in the sport. And then my mom, higher education was very important to her. And so, we just married the two and just tried to, do the best we could with it. And so the rest really is history from the standpoint of higher education and using my skill in sport to get to where I am today. I'll say one thing and then I'll pass it on to Dr. Green. The journey to the seat has not been an easy one. However, it came by way of the hard work and education and experience, raising my hands for things that I was not always qualified, equipped for on paper. But I had a lot of things internally that I've seen, had observed that someone took an opportunity to express that they believed in a skill set. And so I was appointed the athletic director my first go round at Clark Atlanta University. And that's a huge testament to people that champion for you, believe in you. And this go round at the University of California, Riverside, I had to go through a full national search. But that first appointment brought me, I think, full speed to where I am here today at UCR.
Tamica is very humble. Tamica is a first. Come on, Tamica. So Tamica's a first. Tamica is?
I am the first Black woman sitting athletic director ever appointed in the state of California at the Division I level. Did I do it, Jackie? Is that what you wanted to hear? Okay.
I know I'm not going to do it justice, but this has to be said.
Yes, ma'am. And it is an honor and a privilege. And of course, that's kind of a backdrop because most people won't say that or share that story. But I think it's very important that, especially as an illustration of hope, that people do know that they can, do and be anything. Yeah.
And Dr. Green, you can share some of your story now.
Sure. Thank you for having me. I appreciate the opportunity. So I'm an associate professor in the Ross Sears School of Education here at the University of Southern California. I am also a faculty in residence here. I'm a counseling psychologist by training. I got my PhD from Howard University in Washington, D.C., as well as training as a counselor educator at Sacramento State University. Prior to that, I was a student athlete at the University of the Pacific in Stockton, California, where I played football. and I am also currently appointed as a faculty athletics representative here at USC, which basically means that I'm a direct report to the president of the university as a liaison between the university and the athletic department, as well as representative to for the university with the Pac-12 conference and the NCAA. I am, as I mentioned, a former student athlete myself from my college days, and I'm a parent of 4 kids, all of whom played sports. A set of twin girls who ran track for a little bit in college themselves, who are now undergraduate students here at USC. And so after 20 or so years of a career in education and psychology, mental health type fields, I had the opportunity to revisit my roots in athletics by being appointed as the FAR here at USC, and it's been a wonderful opportunity to take what I've learned and what I know about life and education and development, and support the academic integrity and overall well-being of student athletes here at USC.
Thank you both so much for sharing your stories. So we're going to dive into the tough questions. So first, what have been your favorite and your most challenging parts of being part of the college athletics field?
Sure. So the most challenging aspect of athletics for me is both the challenge and an opportunity, and that is dealing with the contradiction of sport in this day and age. As we know, particularly at a big-time Power One school like USC, athletics is an opportunity, a promise, but it's also a challenge given all of the demands that our student athletes face. One of the biggest contradictions that I realized upon taking this position is the fact that, for example, the African-American enrollment at USC for Black males in the undergraduate population is only 2%. Yet, with regards to the student athletes in our revenue-generating sports of football and men's basketball, the representation is much higher at 50 to 60, sometimes 70%. And I feel like it's a problem that our Black men and women are okay to be represented on our campuses as student athletes, but they're not available to represent a typical non-student athlete profile. And with that being said, the challenges that our young Black athletes bring with them, with regard to how well they fit into the environment and how well the environment serves them, has been one of the biggest challenges for me.
So I'll start with my favorite, and then I'll share maybe a challenge. But my favorite has absolutely been the ability to advance our student athletes in their pursuits, whether that is 1, higher education as scholars, 2, playing the sport that they love as a means or a vehicle to earn their degrees. But also, I really take serious the responsibility of making sure that they're professionals when they finish their degree. So some want to go pro in sport, and that's fine. I try to let coaches focus on that. I try to make sure that I'm helping to equip them in professional skills. And so I have many of our students that get a chance to mirror an athletic director, which sometimes is not as likely, and as they're not granted as many opportunities at some of the larger conferences. But being at a mid-major like mine, I get a chance to balance that as an athletic director, and I do intentional work around that. So I have student athletes that shadow me, that shadows our business office, our marketing and media relations. So whatever their end game is, I'm really focusing on that. Coaches focus on their current game, what they're doing right now, but I'm focusing and trying to talk to them about what their future looks like after sports. So that life after sport, and it was my journey, so I can relate to it a lot, well and think about it. And so that's been awesome to see. I'll share 2 stories. I had an opportunity as an athletic director. I get an opportunity to go many places, invited to many conferences and things. So I got an opportunity to go to the NFL Network last year. And I could bring 1 student, and this was recruiting minority students. I could bring 1 student. I put out the call to my student athletes, took my 1 student, help her navigate that space. We toured the network up in LA, and told her, some of the things that she needed to make sure she do, give her contact information out, use me as a resource. She ended up getting an intern at the NFL Network. She was already doing some of that work as a student athlete of ours, working in our marketing and media relations, but she was a full-time student. She was a track athlete and working with us for other games that, we had throughout the department. So she gets the intern at the NFL Network, and now she is a full-time employed graduate of UCR working at the Pac-12 conference office. So that's just one of many that, I really think are really the trophies and the championships that we get to provide for our student athletes. The challenge, I think, Dr. Green, shared a lot of the same challenges that I feel as a leader at this level and with our student athletes, and how they may be valued, on one end and maybe devalued at another end, and how, things can be, forward facing in one setting and then kind of pushed behind the back in another setting. So trying to balance that and really understand, maybe the microaggressions and the, subtle things that happen. It has been a challenge for me as a professional. I experienced it when I was a student athlete. I was a transfer from a predominant institution, and I transferred to a historically Black college, Alabama A&M in Huntsville. My family's from Alabama. I'm from Atlanta. Troy University was my first institution. It was in Alabama. But when I transferred to the historically Black college, it gave me all of my, holistic experience as a student athlete. And sometimes I think we miss that in some settings, in some forms, because we don't get a chance to really help our student athletes understand why they're feeling like they're included or excluded, take the time to listen to them and expressing how they're feeling. So those types of things really become a challenge because you see them every day. Some people don't see them because they don't look for them and they don't listen and they don't slow down enough to see them. But having lived that life, I think I see them every day. And so it's a challenge that we try to triumph every day.
I think I want to jump in and get a question off script, but can you talk a little bit more about the microaggressions that you talked about, and maybe specifically what the journey of a female athlete, student athlete goes through versus, maybe her peers and the challenges that student might face, as they're trying to make decisions in terms of their outcomes,
Sure. So when you think about the microaggressions, it's just those, subtle moments where you feel like there's a maybe a discrimination or a misunderstanding. There's a cultural barrier or gap there. And our student athletes at Riverside, they're really fortunate that we do take the time and we do try to make sure we have all types of tools that we're using to make sure that they are able to express themselves anonymously or directly and without feeling penalized. Of course, anonymous works probably better because, there is no real record of identifying them. But we our student athletes do feel where in classes that professors feel like they may not be as serious about the class. They happen to miss class on university business, but it's not called university business for the student athlete. Sometimes it's like just going to play ball somewhere. The rigor of a student athlete's day, I don't think people really understand don't understand the student athlete experience. I mean, they're up at 7 o'clock training, running the campus. I'm seeing them when I get in at 8:30. They're, doing workouts. They're trying to get a meal in. They're showering and taking, eating protein bars just to run off to class. They're carrying equipment. My tennis team is carrying their rackets around classes, trying to make sure they can transition back to practice. And then they do that all day between classes, practice, trainings, eating, resting, studying. Then they get home at 8 or 9 o'clock at night, try to rest, but I'm sure they're probably up on social media doing something else in their time. And they start that all over again. And so I think there's some lack of understanding sometimes that you just have to talk through. We've started something with our deans and professors on campus, Jaqui, where we have an athletic dean mixer, where the deans of the college bring professors, their select professors that teach student athletes, and we get the student athletes and the dean and those professors in a mixer form room to kind of get more relatable, get more of an understanding of what that day-to-day looks like for them. And it has made a significant difference in the way our student athletes are being treated and seen on our campus.
Okay. Thank you. So next question. What were your goals this academic year in terms of what you were hoping to get out of your department and your position? And how did you go about reaching those goals?
Sure. So one of the things about my job as the faculty athletics rep, or FAR, is that I don't work in the athletic department. I have a faculty appointment in the university and the School of Education, as I mentioned. But my responsibility is to be a liaison with the department. So as a personally, or in my role, my goal was, in going into my second year in this position, was to really gain a better foothold on the policies and practices that govern athletics here at USC, and in college athletics in general. This includes everything from approving schedules of travel for student athletes, making sure that they're not, leaving 2 or 3 days ahead of time for a competition off campus and missing too much class, making sure that they're getting back in time, navigating challenges with missed classes or grading issues to make sure that we're following the policies and the legislation of the NCAA with regards to making sure student athletes aren't given too many or given any special or preferential treatment, or aren't being mistreated as a result of being a student athlete. And so my goal for this year, coming into this year that's wrapping up now, was to continue to understand what was going on a day-to-day basis, but start to pull back a little bit more and less about putting out fires, and understanding the way in which our department functions within the university, and seeing if we can improve the lives of our student athletes. As Ms. Smith-Jones mentioned, the demands of student athlete are tremendous, and oftentimes you get professors in the university who are supportive and understanding of that, but then other times you get those who feel, as was mentioned previously, that they're just playing ball and they don't really take their academic pursuits that seriously. And I'm often called in to navigate those issues. I was recently challenged by a colleague in our one of our departments to, push a student to drop a class because they were struggling, when in fact they needed to have more support from the instructor because of the responsibility of their athletic travel. So goal-wise, I was trying to pull back a little bit from the day-to-day putting out of fires and engage more in structural issues. And as you may or may not know, our university, including our athletic department, is sort of at the center of a major scandal with regards to admissions and bribery that involve some coaches and previous coaches at USC, and personnel. And that has been, as you can imagine, a very tremendous, had a tremendous impact on everyone. And for me, though, I'm really grateful for the opportunity to dig deeper into some of the policies and practices that have been in place, to see that I can do a better job moving forward with helping promote change.
My goals this year have been first and foremost, to make sure that we create a safe and environment that respects all student athletes. Just making sure that their experience is top notch is the primary goal. The second thing is academically, we want our student athletes to maintain a 3.0 GPA and above. That's one thing, being at a UC, a high research institution. When I got here 4 years ago, that was not necessarily the goal from statement standpoint, but we were able to come together collectively as coaching staff, as a program, academic counselors, to say this is where we wanted our student athletes to be high achievers, as we should be academically as well. So for the first time since my 4 years, we hit the 3.0 cumulative GPA this year, and I'm really proud of what our student athletes, our coaches, and our staff committed to. As we know, the student athletes have the responsibility there, but I know that supporting them in the right ways. We've increased tutoring support. We've increased the attention that we give to the academic expectations, and I think all of that collectively has really helped. We used the ARC, our Academic Resource Center, a lot more than we've ever used it in the past during my tenure. So we're taking advantage of all the resources that are offered on our campus, and that's been strategic as an athletic director and our team doing that. So academically, that's been the goal. And then athletically, I inherited a team 4 years ago, a program that was really called a department. And that just kind of, made my flesh crawl. I was like, yay, kind of functioning like a department too. So we wanted to be a program. And so with being a program, having priorities and standards was absolutely essential. And so I inherited a program that was the bottom third of the league. Most of the time, out of 9 programs, we were the 9th in all of our sports. And so, our goal has been this year and will continue to be that we will be champions, that we'll be in the top third of the league. And we've put some very intentional things in places for our coaches and their accountability to our student athletes, as they always, of course, hold the student athletes accountable. But this year we've raised that bar from being at the bottom of the league. Most of our teams are middle of the pack or the top third of the league. So, and we're looking to win championships. We had a national champion for the University of California, Riverside, my first year at the HIM, and that was remarkable considering, UCR's athletics, national champion. Didn't sound like it should go together, but we were really proud out of all 365 student athlete programs in the country at the Division I level that we actually had the weight throw champion in indoor track, Vesta Bell, who's an alum, graduated. And then I'll close by sharing 2 other goals that we have and objectives, and that is to just build, and this is more of a athletic director, head coach's responsibility, and also our development office, is just build resources for our program. And those resources, a lot of my time is spent building relationships, working with donors and sponsors and people that would just believe in student athletes, buy into what the student athlete experience and how they can help them, reach their goals academically, athletically, and then life after, being in our program. We ask our donors to hire our student athletes as maybe interns and or retain them as interns and then give them employable skills. And so we have many of our community leaders who have really stepped up this year and hire student athletes where they're getting in their free time opportunity to really work in some of their major fields and focuses early, because as as a student athlete, your time demand is so massive. You don't get to do the study abroad. You don't get to have a job while you're trying to do your sport. It's a lot to juggle. So we're very intentional about not letting our student athletes lose those opportunities, but finding them, hearing about them, presenting them to the student athletes so that they have the same opportunities as a general student. And then lastly, the goal is to really be accountable. And Dr. Green hit on it. Our industry and profession is really having to take a real look into how we do business on the intercollegiate landscape. And so we want to be accountable for, our budget handling. We want to be accountable for our recruiting admissions policies and everything else. We just want to make sure that we're holding ourselves to a very high standard. And we want to win, but we don't want to win at all costs.
I had a quick follow-up question before I get into my section of questions. I was just curious about what the recognition looked like for the students that hit that 3.0 and above mark. I think that a lot of times we see trophies because we won the game, but not necessarily for the celebration of the academic portion. So just wanted to hear what that recognition looked like.
Theo, that's a great question, and I'm telling you, as a former athlete, athletic director, with a student-centered, mindset, we look at those things and we talk about them just like that. So what does this look like, celebrating our students that do this? And so what we do is we have an all-academic honoring ceremony at probably the biggest populated game that we know we'll have that happens, and so it's typically during the basketball season. And then, so we do that, and unfortunately it becomes the year around that we recognize them for the whole year of those that kept the 3.0 GPA. We invite their faculty and staff, and we have faculty athletic rep like Dr. Green. Dr. Clark is our faculty athletic rep. We also give them a pin or a bar that says that they have high academic achievements. And when at the end of the year, when we have our end of the year banquet, we acknowledge them at that as well. I actually sign off on certificates of achievement for them. So we get them something that they can actually take home, put on the wall, send it to parents. And so those are some ways. We'll have something on the website. We'll do a press release to just make sure they know that that's just as important. And we talk about it. We talk about it a lot. I mean, I have one-on-one meetings with the chancellor, and part of my meetings with him is to talk about what the sports are doing now, what to put on this radar, the good, the bad, the ugly, and indifferent. But I also talk about these sort of achievements, not just the, we beat, so-and-so, but our student athletes for the first time in the last 4 years, which is how long I've been here, got the 3.0 cumulative GPA. So thank you for asking that question.
So the next question, I'll open it up for Dr. Green to answer, and then you can reply as well. But the question I have is, can you talk about the success and the challenges that you see from student athletes post-graduation or post-college? Right? So some people leave before they graduate, some people graduate. What does that journey look like? What are some common some successes and challenges you see in those paths?
Sure.
So first, for athletes of color.
Sure. First, the success. I think it's remarkable anytime a student athlete transitions from high school into college and continues to play their sport with success on the field or court or track or whatever it may be, in the pool, and then also in the classroom, and as well as socially, and doing all of that and preparing also for life after their playing days. Many, at USC, in some sports, we do have a large representation in the professional ranks, particularly in football, and a few other sports. However, as the cliche goes, most of our student athletes go pro in things other than athletics. And so the successes include students realizing that, even though they were recruited since sometimes middle school and all through high school to come to a place like USC and participate in collegiate athletics, they tend to identify as only an athlete, or yes, a student athlete, but that athletic moniker is pretty high on their priority list. And to watch those who realize at some point or another that they're not necessarily going to continue on after college into the professional ranks, that there is life after sport, understanding how to begin that transition while they're still participating, getting involved in activities, learning about their strengths and weaknesses outside of the sport, grappling with issues such as mental health, which is a serious concern for all students and particularly student athletes more and more these days. And so learning how to navigate and grapple with all those things it's a lot. It's tremendous, but it's also wonderful to see students as they do that. And I could talk, just in the 2-year period that I've been involved, I've seen student athletes face challenges and move on and put their sport behind them, those that go pro, but then more so those who don't, and realize that they have people skills, they have problem solving skills, they have a tremendous set of assets and a network of people who they know, or the ability to just go and meet new people and put that to use in their growth. It's just really been powerful. On the challenges side is those students who, student athletes who don't quite make that transition as well. So whether it's because they don't do well academically or injuries that shorten their playing career, or just the overall impact of some of the issues like mental health challenges that many of us face, they may not necessarily make that transition as smoothly as we would like for them to. The good news is that we are committed. We don't give up on them. Even in the short period of time that I've been here, there are former student athletes who are either still around or who come back to the university and take advantage of funding to complete their degrees or opportunities to connect and network around opportunities outside of sport and the university. So just trying to build better systems of care and collecting data and acting on those issues that we learn, things that we learn along the way has been some of the challenges that we face. Here at USC, with such a high profile of athletes, it's challenging sometimes to look past the controversy or the scandals or, who's playing on Sunday or what have you, and focus on the individual. And we just try and help our student athletes just build that identity early on. And we're doing that more and more. We're even sort of talking to our first year students as they come in to start preparing for that day when they have to retire. We always say, you're going to have to walk away from the sport at one time or another. Hopefully it'll be on your terms, but when it's not, we hope that you can still make the best of it.
One thing that I would just add to add on to that is that I think it's very, the sooner you can start preparing your student athletes for that life after sport, life after graduation, some of the things that I alluded to and the things that we do at University of California, Riverside with that in-house training, getting employable skills, allowing them to shadow and work within the department as they are matriculating. I think that's very important. One of the things I see as challenges when our student athletes earn their degree and on their way is they still do not have an idea of what they really want to be doing. And so I've encouraged our student athletes, because it's my path and it worked well for me, and I had no desire to go to grad school, but my former undergrad coach, when he got a head coaching job at Savannah State University, and he called me, we never talked about grad school, and said, I think you'd be a great assistant, coach, learn some administrative skills. I can't pay you to do this, but what I can do is pay for your grad school. And I was like, I'm good, just earn my degree. First in the family at that time. I didn't need that. Mom overheard the conversation and said, when do you need to be there? Mom was all about the higher ed. She cared less about the sport. And that opportunity bought me 2 years to really find myself outside of being puppeted around by my coaches, doing what people were telling me to do. I had to really, find my identity. And so we encourage our student athletes now at a great rate to pursue advanced degrees. I spent a lot of time writing letter of recommendations as a result of that. And I spent a lot of time, I'm at a conference now, the NCAA Inclusion Forum in Atlanta. And I spend a lot of my side time talking to those rising stars who are just maybe getting in the industry, still trying to find their way, former student athletes, former GAs, or in grad school, just need someone to talk them through this process after they earned a degree. And one of the things that I do personally and professionally to give back is on Fridays, whenever my schedule permits. If I can look at my schedule, I'm not stacked up with meetings or things on Friday, I stack my schedule up with calls and time blocked out to do letter of recommendations, return phone calls from young aspiring administrators that are trying to get, more thoughts and ideas about the next step. That's my time to really help them, because it is very important that they do have people that look like them, that have walked the path that they're trying to, been on the journey that they're trying to get on, that will literally take the time that, Dr. Green has shared and that, I've demonstrated over my journey as well.
And I think that leads right into the next question I have for you. Part of what we're doing here through this digital workshop is to make sure that we have the tools and resources passed to the next person. So what are some of the things that you will recommend if someone wants to be an athletic director, if someone wants to be in your particular part of the industry? What are some things that you would encourage them to pursue and to start looking at if they want to make that next step into athletics?
I really think that, and this hasn't been proven, but I really think that being a former student athlete gives you an edge on getting into college athletics. And one of the things that I don't think we have enough of is mentors and people that are modeling and taking the time with the student athletes to show them exactly what they're doing. And what I encourage graduating students or GAs or anybody trying to get into that entry level is, volunteer. You got to invest in yourself. Your time is money. And so, you can volunteer and get some real life skills and experiences and tactical skills that will really help you. And a lot of times you can get into an environment where, because you're there doing the job voluntarily, you're the next person up. Like it's easy to say, well, we see Tamica has the skill, she's doing the job. Jobs can get created for, skillful people as well. So volunteerism is one. Attending as many workshops, conferences, summits. I think I'm very grateful to be at UC Riverside, because I can go online and do all of this learning and programming and, professional development and don't have to leave my office. I mean, you can spend a whole day doing it. And so having a webinar like this, it would really be advantageous for people that, may need to, be encouraged in some of the areas we're talking about. And also the NCAA from a collegiate standpoint has many opportunities that they're offering paid to those aspiring. Limited skills, haven't been an athlete before, can put a letter together, a interest letter together, has a resume, have a couple of references, and the rest can be history. So those are some things that I think that are readily available for the taking, but sometimes we don't take full advantage of them.
So I think that's some really good advice there. My role, to be honest with you, prior to giving the opportunity to step into this role as a faculty athletic rep, I wasn't even aware of its existence. It's something I didn't even know about as someone who's been a faculty member for 20 plus years at multiple institutions. And it's kind of unique because there's just one professor at every NCAA institution who's appointed in this capacity. And so the likelihood of someone maybe stumbling into that, I think, is possible. I wouldn't rule it out. But for my advice for student athletes per se, if you are moving into fields of the academy, getting involved, particularly if you've been a student athlete yourself, being involved with how athletics operates in your campus, whether it's oversight committees or just supporting the athletic department, student athletes in your classes, that kind of thing. But I would also, Smith Jones, you reminded me that I myself got into not just my career overall by a former coach after I graduated from college, who had transitioned away from our institution and invited me to coach at a community college. And if it had not been for Coach Scott just simply picking up the phone and saying, "Hey, Alan, love to have you come and coach our guys at a community college level," it was a really great experience. I wish I could have played, coached my junior year and then went back and played my senior year. I think I would approach it very much a lot differently. But it also introduced me into the field of psychology and education. And so the advice that I have for student athletes is to get to know your coaches and athletic personnel, and always not only just sort of like what do you have to do and being compliant with your responsibilities as a student athlete, but learn about them, form relationships, get to understand how things work. There are athletes in all of our teams that I know just simply because we work together on problems or challenges or what have you, and they get to know me and they ask questions about what do you do? How did you get into this position? What's going on? And then I feel like if you have an understanding of what's happening behind the scenes of your athletic experience, you're going to understand whether it's sports information, whether it's medical training, strength and conditioning, coaching, administration, fundraising. There's so many opportunities there, as it's been mentioned previously, in terms of getting volunteering, getting internships, getting paid opportunities, but even just simply getting to know what's happening. And that's not just a ball and a bat or a football or a basketball. There's a whole business industry that happens both on campus, in between universities, at the conference level, the NCAA. There are organizations, professional organizations that athletic directors belong to, faculty, athletic reps. There's a role of senior women's athletic directors that is very an important one that students should know about, and the importance of Title IX. So it's just understanding the business and the industry behind college athletics is going to give you a leg up, whether you go into that field as a whole or just understanding how organizations work and being a part of one.
Okay. I actually have a very quick follow-up question, because Tamica is right now at the NCAA, and I'm just wondering, is that part of your normal responsibilities for your particular position, or is that something additional you're doing with a professional organization? I'm sorry, that might be very clear to everyone else. I don't know.
I'll be glad to answer it, Jackie. So any work with the NCAA is part of our normal, it's like other duties as assigned, but it helps us with the network, get involved, get engaged. This particular conference is the NCAA Inclusion Forum. So it just talks about all the inclusion, diversity, and those types of matters. And so a lot of the industry members, the membership comes to this one setting. But as I shared also earlier with you guys, I'm a part of the NCAA Women's Basketball Committee. That is a selected committee of 365 universities at the Division I level. Only 10 of us are on this committee, just like the men have 10 on their men's basketball committee that actually watch the games of all of our teams and select them, bracket them for the 64 field, and they go to Final Four. From a student athlete standpoint, and I've been on the NCAA Committee for Women's Athletics and some other things, the MOA, which is the Minority Opportunities in Athletic Administrators, NACTA, as Dr. Green spoke about, the athletic directors. There's a big conference called NACTA, which is the National Athletic Collegiate Directors of Athletic Administrators Conference, that's held every year, where athletic directors are going to sessions, faculty athletic reps, which is Dr. Green's group, are going to sessions. Senior women administrators are going to settings, and we all come together under one umbrella, just trying to, understand all the dynamics of what we're doing. So, but there are student athlete organizations as well. The Student Athlete Advisory Committee is a leadership committee that is on all campuses, that is governed, pretty much designed by the NCAA to make sure that student athletes have a voice in the department. So I meet with that group They, make sure that we're hearing things that may be happening in individual programs and push that up to the administration. There are also professional opportunities for student athletes, such as the WIN Academy is one that helps them. We sent a student athlete for the first time last year to the WIN Academy. It was hosted in Miami, Florida, where other student athletes gather and they learn some behind the scenes business models of intercollegiate athletics. So there's a plethora of things out there. I'll be glad to share with anyone that reaches out to me about how to navigate that path.
Okay.
Awesome.
So do we have time for me to ask one question very quickly?
Oh, I got a bunch of questions.
Okay. So this is actually the last question on our list that we shared with you. And I'm just wondering if you could share one thing that you both wish that other student affairs professionals, maybe like myself, I work in residential life. Theo works in the Black Cultural Center at USC. And there's, student affairs professionals in, all over the university. What is one thing you wish that we would know about working with college athletics?
I'm actually talking to you right now on a Saturday afternoon in my apartment on campus at USC because I am a faculty in residence. That means I live here in a residential college with our students. And as a result of that, I get a chance to work with student professionals like yourself, student affair professionals like yourself in residential settings. And it gives me just yet another layer to the lives of our student athletes. That is, how they interact in the dorms or in the residential buildings, how they function amongst other students. And I would say that it's important to get to know student athletes, to understand them. Here at USC, for example, our football and our basketball players, as I said, if it wasn't for our student athletes, you wouldn't really see that many Black, African-American students on campus. So our guys and gals are, they're known. The neck has some pluses and minuses, but they're sometimes stereotyped as being, just athletes and not caring about school or caring about some of the events because of their time commitments. But I've been a part of helping our residential professional and student or staff who interact with all students to get to know student athletes, to understand their demands, understand who they are, get to know them and not just see them from a distance. So I encourage encourage anyone to get to know student athletes, spend time, go to their events, encourage them, talk to them about things other than sports is really an important piece there.
Okay, and Tamica?
Dr. Green nailed it. I would have said the same exact, and the way he closed it out with just supporting the student athletes by attending their functions, getting to know them. We talk a lot about, I have a hashtag that I use that is, I'm a person, not a position. And we talk a lot about the player, but we don't talk about the student, and we don't talk about the person in these student athletes. And so getting to know them and getting to be able to identify them outside of their jersey, outside of what they did on Saturday at the game, they will find some really dynamic young people that are that could be be advocates on our campus, ambassadors for our campus. You may not know the chemistry student, but the basketball player, and to be able to leverage that, that intersection of that person and that player, I think is huge for college campuses to take advantage of just having the bright minds and the talented, skills that they have in student athletes.
Awesome.
Okay.
So that's the end of our on paper question. I had one more. Since you're at the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion conference. So the question is, so when I think of sports and how sports is portrayed to most folks, it's something that brings everybody together, right? Ever since Jackie Robinson, it's
yes.
barriers are broken down and everybody loves sports. So when you think about you being the first African American woman to hold the position that you hold, I'm just curious about what diversity, equity, and inclusion looks like to the NCAA. Given that players are predominantly of color in most respects, what does that look like in other leadership roles, and what is being done to navigate those spaces?
That's a big question, and I can't unpack all the layers of it. But I can tell you that this conference at NCAA Inclusion Forum this weekend has been very insightful and very intentional about trying to address, the elephant in the room, the things that we all know are happening. There was a statement that was made by the Vice President of Diversity and Inclusion and Human Resources, Catrice Albert. She said that, segregation wasn't, changed in overnight, and nor is, having an inclusive, collegiate athletics program or higher education, but we have to be persistent. And I think that's the real key to all of it, is to be able to discuss what's happening and to be very, vocal and understanding. And, we deal with, a lot of things. I mean, just, racism, that we have to deal with it, but how do we deal with anti-racism? How do we go from racism? Because everybody wants to say, I'm not racist. I got a black friend, or, whatever. But there's the anti-racism that I think, are you really against it? Is when things happen in your space, in your face, do you address it? Are you an ally? And you're a bystander? You see it happening. Do you, just, blow it off and act like you don't see it? So I think that's what's happening with what we got going on with athletics right now. A lot of things are getting uncovered, and the covering is coming off, and the students are having a voice, which is the main impact right now, is that the students are having a greater voice. I love it. Yes, it gives me angst every day just because, I know I've got to, sit in my seat, be a decision maker. But we want to be able to hear the voices, address them as best we can. We won't solve it all overnight, but getting the right people in the room that are really intentional about it, I think it's a great start.
And we'll give Dr. Green a chance to answer that as well if he had anything to add, and then we'll wrap up.
Yeah, I mean, just as with any frontier, race inclusion, gender inclusion, sexual orientation inclusion, all forms of inclusion are challenges in college athletics as much as anywhere else. And I feel like there's the opportunity, because it's usually when you turn on the television, you're usually not seeing men and women of color talking about many things other than sports. And while that's, something we need to change in our society, the fact that they do have, the LeBrons and the others who, garner attention, Tiger Woods and whoever it may be, is an opportunity for us to address these issues. And there's we call them microaggressions, but I had a colleague once recently tell me that there's nothing micro when someone punctures your soul with hatred, and even as slight as it may be. There's those aggressions that happen. There's the fact that you have predominantly revenue sports that are predominantly made up of students of color making their money for an institution such as USC that funds many of the other sports where you don't see students of color, looking for opportunities for equity, looking for opportunities of inclusion in the coaching and administrative ranks, I think are all frontiers that we are challenging. I have a colleague who is at the Inclusion Conference there in Atlanta, and I'm looking forward to hearing from Joyce Bell. Matter of fact, Tamica, if you could maybe reach out to her and see.
I will. I'll find her. Yes.
She's our actually interim SWA right now and getting her feet wet, but she's been in our athletic department and compliance. But she's there. We're going to be meeting in Arizona for our Pac-12 conference here next week, and looking forward to building on some of the ideas and topics that that are being discussed. So networking. There are other organizations. There's an African American student athlete organization at the University of Texas that is pretty popular. They put a conference on in January. There's a very strong LGBTQ contingent in athletics, and we're very proud here at USC with our involvement in that area. And so it's another frontier, but it's a frontier with leverage, because when you get to know someone and see them as a star athlete and knowing that how well they're doing academically, you're less inclined to deny them opportunity. You know, it does happen, but we are using that stage and that platform to bring about change.
And if I can just add here, you know, I do believe that the change starts at the top. And I have a mindset to be an advocate, to one, bring awareness. So anytime that I am in a situation where something pricks my soul, I'm going to speak to it the best I can. Okay. It's not that it's going to come off right, or, you know, may hurt somebody's feeling or offend somebody. That's not my problem. I can't deal with that problem. I just want to make sure that I'm bringing awareness that, you know, something has happened in my space. And then I think when you bring awareness, you can advocate, because many times it's not just your spirit being pricked, you know, you speaking up could be on the behalf of others. And so bringing that awareness and being an advocate, I think that's how we advance and move the needle on this stuff. And I know being in the seat, sitting in the seat, I have a lot of responsibility, and I take it really seriously to make sure that I am a voice for minorities, for women, for all the things that I am. Mothers, you know, try being a mother in this 24/7 job, you know. It's a whole lot of things that, because I'm experiencing them, nobody can tell me differently how I'm feeling about them, how, you know, the challenges that they are, but me speaking on them can help another, you know, sister, another minority, another mother, be able to, you know, navigate the journey a lot less negatively impactful.
Well, I want to thank both of you for your time. I know that it's a privilege to take away an hour on a weekend when we're all very busy and doing amazing things. We'll also add this to our list of our playlist of other episodes, and we'll release all of them together probably in the month of May. So we just thank you for being one of our first participants, really, in an endeavor that we hope will be beneficial to many other professionals within higher ed as well. So thanks.